Welcome to Rebel Intel, where we're going to talk about international relations. Again, today, this is part 2 of 2, where we're talking about international relations and what does it mean when all of these 153 countries are officially recognizing the state of Palestine, and the European Union is once again calling for a two-state solution. What does all this mean? Well, in part 1 yesterday, I posted some of the basic international relations theoretical frameworks such as realism, liberalism, and constructivism. From those lenses, what does all this mean? So today I'm going to do a deeper dive in my personal assessment based on my personal international relations theoretical lens of preference, which is offensive realism. Especially in the Middle East, I like to also go into constructivism a little bit and look at the cultures, the cultural identities of both the Palestinians and the Israelis, and note things like the history, the religion, the language, the traditions, the fact that they're both pretty highly patriarchal, a high level of ego, a high level of sense of honor, a high level of revenge motive, things like that. Just from a constructivist viewpoint, a long-lasting peace and stability between Israel and Palestinians doesn't look very promising. But let's go into this where we're talking more about the 153 nations officially recognizing Palestinian statehood and European countries calling for more of a two-state solution, which again, this is nothing new. The recent wave of statehood recognitions for Palestine is not, in my opinion, a positive and tangible step forward towards a peaceful two-state solution. But this is an evolution of an ongoing great power competition, or we can call this a great security competition in this space. These states are rational actors, and they're seeking to maximize their power and security in what I will continue to describe as an anarchic international system or international order. Now, Europe's power play, their coordinated recognition of Palestine is, in my opinion, not an above-board, forthright, and principled stand for diplomacy or human rights. They've really never cared about that too much in the past. They always front it, but what tangible effort do they really put with good political will towards that end? I think their step in this direction is more of a calculated move to increase their own relative power and influence. I think it's a direct response to what Europe perceives as a potential power vacuum, partially being left by the U.S. under President Donald Trump in a more protectionist and non-interventionist stance when it comes to the Middle East, albeit that Trump did try to militarily defend Israel. He has helped Israel conduct offensive military strikes, most notably with that B-2 bombing in Iran. And he has gone to the area, and him and Starmer both said that what they saw in Gaza regarding the hunger cannot be faked. But it appears that the European leaders are not thinking that he's taking a positive and tangible enough step. So they're wanting to step in and potentially take lead. So let's have a look. Europe is trying to align with a majority of the United Nations and acting as the diplomatic leader or grown-ups in the room on this issue. European states are attempting to elevate their own status in global politics and challenge the long-standing U.S.-led order in the Middle East. They are not acting out of altruism in any way, shape, or form, but out of self-interested desires to shape regional outcomes and secure their own interests, such as energy, trade routes, and political standing. Yet trade routes, they're working on IMEC, the India Middle East European Corridor. While that's still in negotiation stages and it hasn't started yet, I'm not sure how well it will potentially compete with China's Belt and Road Initiative, because it starts and sort of ends. One of the start and end points is Piraeus, Athens, Greece, and those docks are reportedly primarily owned and controlled by China. Anyway, that's what European nations are going for. They're going for that energy trade and political standing in a region they have historically influenced. European meddling in the Middle East has not fared well since the Crusades, and Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas has already reportedly said that Palestine will seek significant reparations from Britain. Yeah, right after Starmer announced that the United Kingdom would officially recognize the Palestinian state, reportedly, according to some sources, Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas said that Palestine would seek significant reparations from Great Britain. Some reports were to the tune of $2 trillion. Here's a side note. Reportedly, over 400 multi-billion-dollar multinational corporations have a presence in Israel, with about 8 of them having a significant headquarters or office, and those 8 alone employ, according to reports, approximately 90,000 Israelis. Here's a short list of these multinational corporations that have a footprint in Israel: Intel, Microsoft, Google Alphabet, Apple, NVIDIA, IBM, Cisco Systems, Amazon, Meta Platforms, Hewlett-Packard, Applied Materials, Qualcomm, General Motors, Intel's Mobileye, Volkswagen, Hyundai, Mercedes-Benz, Teva Pharmaceutical Industries, Pfizer, Johnson & Johnson, and Merck. And with the financial institutions or banks, there's also Citigroup and Barclays. Now, for the U.S. and Israeli alliance, what's going to happen with that? This is going to continue to be a codependent alliance. The U.S. and Israel's opposition to Palestinian statehood recognition is a classic example of a security maximizing alliance. For the United States, supporting Israel is going to be a way to continue projecting power to maintain a stable, powerful ally in a strategically vital region, a vital region that is also highly volatile and highly pitted in most cases against Israel. With Europe turning on Israel, the U.S. alliance is crucial for its survival and its ability to maintain military superiority in, again, this hostile environment, this hostile neighborhood, so to speak. The U.S. bombing of Iran while supporting Israel is pure offensive realism. It was a preemptive, power-maximizing move to eliminate a potential challenger to the existing balance of power, thereby enhancing both U.S. and Israeli security. The opposition to Palestinian statehood reflects a core belief that a true sovereign and unified Palestinian state could become a security threat and provide a foothold for rival powers or other non-state actors, such as whatever will become of Hamas after this Israeli military intervention, because the resistance to Israel is going nowhere, and it's probably actually going to increase. So now let's look at Palestine's lack of statehood and potential inevitable conflict. That's one of the things that I see here, is that Palestine is not a full-fledged nation state. Regardless of the amount of nations that recognize it officially or otherwise, it has to be able to control and govern the entirety of the region that it claims to be within its borders. That is in order to have this thing that they call sovereignty. If it can't do that, if it can't provide security without Israel stepping in and saying, hey, you guys are letting these non-state actors attack us too much, Palestine statehood is not looking really good. There's always going to be that inevitable conflict as well, because there's factions of the Palestinians that will not only never recognize Israel, but always resist Israel. It's just part of the culture from a constructivist perspective. Palestine lacks unified control and is unable to provide sufficient internal and regional security. Recognition alone does not confer the material capabilities, territory, military, and effective governance that define a state in the international system, as long as there are competing authorities such as Fatah in the West Bank and Hamas in Gaza, and a lack of control over borders and internal security. Palestine is not a cohesive, sovereign, functioning state. This lack of a unified power center makes it a weak actor and a source of instability. From a security maximizing viewpoint, a weak actor in a contested region is not a guarantor of peace. It is an invitation for conflict, as neighboring powers, Israel, will continue to act aggressively to secure their borders and prevent the emergence of a threat. It's pretty basic and simple. The existence of walls and ongoing occupation is seen as a logical security response by the state of Israel, which perceives an existential threat from a neighbor that cannot control its own territory. That's from the Israeli perspective. So you have to deal with the Israeli perspective, and you have to deal with the Palestinian perspective. Can there be some coexistence from a constructivist perspective? There could be, because I've heard rumors back in about 2005 to 2010 that the young crowd, the college age crowd with the Israelis and the Palestinians, they were getting together and actually trying to start up an adult entertainment business, showing the actors and actresses of both sides collaborating together, if you know what I'm saying, and basically thumbing their noses at both the Palestinian Authority and the Israeli government. I don't know how true that was, but that is a rumor that I heard, is that many out there do believe in coexistence. So we'll have to see who wins the day eventually, hopefully, maybe, someday. I don't know, maybe not. Failure of diplomacy and the primacy of power. Europe's diplomatic efforts will likely fail. Diplomacy and international law are secondary to the distribution of power. A two-state solution is not a viable outcome because it requires both parties to compromise their security interests, which they are not willing to do. Israel and Palestine are not willing to do this. Again, it is an anarchic system, and they are going to do what they think is best for them. I've always said, Israel's going to do Israel. And you can say the same thing of Palestine. Palestine is going to do Palestine. Israel will not relinquish control of territory that it sees as vital to its security, and Palestinian factions will not accept the territorial lines that they view as illegitimate from the get-go and a permanent state of subjection. The number of countries that recognize Palestine is irrelevant. What matters is the material power and security capabilities of the actors involved. Because Palestine doesn't have a huge military industrial base, this is why non-state actors like Hamas and its military wings such as Palestinian Islamic Jihad and Al-Aqsa Martyrs Brigade conduct asymmetric, essentially terrorist attacks, what most people call terrorist attacks, but we have to delineate there and refine definitions. Is it a terrorist attack? Well, if they're striking a military target, that could be legitimate. If they are taking civilians as hostage, that is a terrorist attack. That's what most scholars and legal scholars believe in anyway. So the region will remain in perpetual security dilemma and competition with nemesis, this enemy that the other side can just never defeat. Both sides, Israel has Palestine as a nemesis, Palestine has Israel as a nemesis, a perpetual enemy that they can never completely defeat. The threat of war will remain ever present. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you on the next video.